I remember when I first started out in AI and automation, the one thing that I didn't understand was people's obsession with templates. Um, I would see them just in every single comment section, please give me the template, please give me the template, and I generally didn't understand why. And I ended up realizing why they did this. But the more I realized it, the more I kind of started distancing myself from them because I understood one fundamental truth, and it's the fact that templates are essentially a trap. Um, and you understand what I mean in the future. You might even have this inclination inside yourself already. If you are that type of person, then this video is definitely for you. I just wanted to yap a bit about how I actually feel about templates, and I think um, maybe you might find some insights here that you might like to take home and actually think about. So let's start. So as I said, there's a dangerous illusion floating around in the AI and automation space, and I started realizing this 7 months ago when I started sort of learning. And what I would do back then is I would watch videos from this guy called John O'Catliff. And you could find him, he's relatively famous, and he used to make videos on Make back then. He didn't really touch N8N. So I started off in make.com. That was how I started learning. The nice thing about Jono is that yes, he shared templates, but I didn't really, download those templates. What I would do is I would follow along in his videos, and then I would just get those outputs every single time, and I'll go, wow, that's so cool. Wow, you can do this, you can connect this and that. So that whole process of me, that was how I learned literally every single day when I was trying to build something. That was how I learned, by following along videos. It wasn't until later on when I actually started digging deeper into the automation space that I realized that there's a whole sort of template pushing thing going on, and it, I didn't like this. I mean, people thought just because they had templates, they had everything sorted out. That's not actually how it works. So there's a lot of people who call themselves specialists, but all they do is just connect a few apps with a template, and then suddenly they just know their shit. Or they watch a couple of YouTube videos, and then suddenly they're experienced or whatever. Though they just download some kind of plug and play workflow, then they suddenly selling a service. That's actually how people phrase it these days. It's you can get this template, and then you can start selling it for 1.5 or something. That's not how it works, right? If you don't really understand how data flows, if you can't really troubleshoot when systems break, if your idea of building is literally just copying someone else's work and then pasting it in your own sort of flow, or maybe even selling it to a potential client or customer, then you're not doing automation, you're just automating your ignorance. And this isn't me hating or anything, I promise, right? You might say, oh, what the hell, you're just a small YouTuber. Technically I'm not even a YouTuber. This is my work, this is what I do. I wouldn't even call myself an automation specialist. What I do is I engineer AI automated systems. So yes, you could call me an AI automated systems specialist in a way. But yeah, matter of fact, I share and download templates too. I if you look at my channel, I literally just been sharing these templates all the time. And that was just if I'm being totally honest, that was basically three reasons behind that. The first was to get more eyeballs on my content. The second was to build a lead list. And the third was just to basically, as an experiment, just to see how many people would be willing to get that. And it was actually quite a lot. I could show you my Gumroad sales. I mean, even though most of them are just $0, because I initially priced the products on $0. I recently changed that though, but if you want to find out about that, you'll have to find my second channel. This is this is my main channel, so we're not going to talk about that. Basically my point is that templates are not really the problem, right? The problem is their effect. They make you lazy, right? They convince you that you don't actually need to learn. As long as you sort of somehow understand what's happening, that you can just take this and then just sell it to someone, You don't really need to actually put together the moving parts yourself, right? You don't really need to understand the fundamentals of what's really going on, like how you're mapping certain data from previous nodes, or how you're actually getting sort of all these different services sort of connected together. They feel like they don't need to understand that, and that's actually very, very bad. So because the truth is that templates tend to break, right? How your data is represented in like how your data is represented is most likely different from how the person that you're getting the template from, like their data is represented. And when that data starts flowing through, it ends up breaking. Sometimes APIs change, right? You have API migrations where it's like they're migrating from V1 to V2, maybe they're changing endpoints, or maybe they're adding or removing some kind of functionality. Like APIs change, and when it comes time to actually go and read through the documentation, because you can't actually find that information from AI most times, especially with like modern APIs, because AI is based on training data from like 2022, 2023. So if it's like modern changes, you probably won't find that information. At the end of the day, like even worse, businesses have like edge cases where like there's no real generic flow that can actually handle that. Like you have to build something from scratch. So if you're someone like who's a template pusher, what do you do when that happens? Because at the end of the day, real automation is hard, right? Like I've learned this myself. Clients come to you with chaos, right? They come to you with disconnected tools. They come to you with all these different ideas about how they want to mix and match all of this and then make something really magical happen. They come to you with bad data as well. They come to you with weird formats, with like undocumented logic, and like all sorts of habits that they forgot to mention that you somehow have to put like in sort of real documented sort of discrete ways that you could actually like map out any flow. And that's exactly where plug and play fails. I mean, because every client is different. um, if you're trying to customize something to a client but you don't even understand how the workflow is actually working, or like what you actually need to do, how are you going to get anything done, right? So this is actually how specialists get exposed. I was actually in a conversation with someone on school about this exact thing, so I felt like I had to share it. Like she was talking about how there's been so many times where she like hired people, but she had to fire them because for one thing they keep charging super high prices, but those super high prices aren't even like really really valid, because those people, they don't even know what they're doing, right? What they do is they just take on clients and then they build an automation, but all they do is just get a template from someone. With like there's a ton of free templates out there, especially on Gumroad. I've seen a bunch of people sort of selling template packs where it's like 1,500 templates all sold in one thing. um, yeah, and then they sell it for like $39 or whatever. I was literally in a conversation with this one guy who was trying to sell me this. Actually, what he wanted was for me to give him my templates, and then he would cut me a deal. Like, bro, but like these people, they think that just because it works, then there's no need to actually worry about it. No, there is a need to worry, but like when you tell them that, what do they say? Oh, well, it's just easy money. No, it's not, bro. It's not. And the real reason is that real automation is hard, right? It's what I spoke about before. Data representation normally causes errors, right? If you have an error in terms of data representation, maybe a lead doesn't get processed, maybe an invoice doesn't get sent, maybe a workflow starts looping endlessly because it's not updating some kind of condition, right? And it keeps spamming someone's inbox, and then it just keeps depleting credits in some service or something, right? Your client's mad, right? You're scrambling because you don't even understand what's going on. But your client doesn't even care about that, because at the end of the day, they hired a specialist. They hired someone who's supposed to know what the fuck they're doing. So they want whatever you're building to work. So is it actually working? That's the only question that they have in their mind. And if you can't answer that question, then you're already doing a very bad job. So if you can't explain why, if you can't debug it confidently, if you can't rebuild it from scratch with full control of every single little piece of the puzzle, You're not a specialist, right? You are a risk. Like at the end of the day, I feel like it goes back to that concept of sort of what someone, like what you really are as someone who's delivering a service. You basically are someone who is healing someone's pain. You're a healer. How could a healer ever be a risk? Like that would be like, a doctor healing you by just stabbing you again, again, again. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it does. It like it. Just think about it. So now I think this is like a really good moment for you to ask yourself, like, what do you actually want? Like, real money, is that what you want? Real clients, is that what you want? Real respect, is that what you want? You're not going to get these by skipping steps. And I'm talking, like, I feel like I might be talking to you, but I might be talking to like a version of me from the past who, like looked at these people and looked at the success that they were getting, where they got someone's template and then they just sold it to someone and they were like, oh my god, the easiest money I've ever made in my life. Every shortcut is a potential failure point, right? And you really need to think about these things, and there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you why in a moment. It's because templates rarely think, right? They're not like humans. Templates assume that everything is static, clean, linear. They're just a demo of whatever is possible. But business is rarely consistent, right? It's unpredictable, emotional, full of outliers. You could have someone fill in a form and then just have some kind of missing field that's actually very important in your flow, and you just didn't account to it on the front end, and then boom, everything just breaks. There's so many situations that I could just account for, but like there are so many outliers in reality, and that's where most templates actually end up dying, and that's where you end up failing if you take templates very seriously. So one thing people get wrong like a lot is the fact that automation is not about convenience. Like people think, oh, it's just to make things convenient, it's just to save my clients time. Um, it's not really just about that. It's not just about making things easy. It's about making them reliable. It's about making them dependable. Um, and most of the time, like you don't actually need to be asking what tools you need to use. You should be asking the bigger question. You should be asking what systems you need to put in place. You should be asking what inputs come in, what functions you need to transform those inputs to create outputs. How are you developing those systems? You need to ask about what edge cases need to be handled before they even appear. You, you need to move your thinking from this plug and play mentality to literal architecture building, right? Like everything step by step, everything has to be hyper intentional, as I always say. Now inputs are what goes in. Like this is something I say every time. Like inputs, very important. Inputs, functions, and outputs, right? Inputs, what goes in on one side. This could be like data. This could be your thinking, your mentality on like how to solve a problem. This could be information that you're getting from a client. Like everything is just an input to a process or a function that creates an output. And if you optimize everything, so if you optimize the quality of your input, the quality of your functions, you will get better outputs at the end of the day, right? So but that's where most people actually mess up, right? Because they skip a step. They're way too focused on the outputs, so they just put in the inputs and then they just care, like they just grab it, download a template, and then they just try to sell it to someone. Or maybe in a case of someone who's like trying to build something, they get a new lead on the site and just add it to the CRM and they think they're done. Is that really what it takes? I mean, functions, well, I guess you could say systems, because at the end of the day, this it's a whole method of thinking about things whereby you kind of break things down to the fundamentals. So functions are systems, but the whole input, function, output is a system in and of itself, and then it just scales outwards like that. And what you need to do is you need to start thinking about like what goes on in there. Like you can't just take an input and just grab an output, right? You need to clean the data. I guess in this case the data. You need to validate the logic. You need to check and handle like every single error that comes up. And you need to control all the variables. Right? Your main goal should be deciding what should happen, not what can happen. You want to design intelligent systems that work even without you actually working on them. And once you start like really building by sort of predicting all these different paths of execution, all these different contingencies, you build like really resilient workflows, and that's how you win. Not only sort of like in the aspect of sort of assuming the identity of being someone who's an actual builder, but you win the hearts of your clients who like actually recognize that you built something incredible. And yeah, so like I feel like only the thinkers win. Like only people who actually like genuinely think about what they're building. Like only they win. It's not the button clickers who just click a button on Gumroad and then they download a template and then boom they sell it to someone. It's not a course collector who feels like they have to watch every single video in a course, or like they watch multiple courses just to sort of get the idea that they might be ready for to be an automation specialist. It's not the template cloner who like downloads a template and then starts selling it to other people. um, it's the real builder who actually like gets paid, because they are the ones who actually take the time to sort of learn the fundamentals, to understand what actually goes into building a really good system, and then whenever they get met with an opportunity, they understand just how to tackle a problem to deliver transformation, and then they get paid based on that value that they're providing. So everyone else is literally just watching YouTube and just hoping that things are going well, right? Um, that was basically just me yapping. If you're ready to like stop thinking small, maybe you're ready to like build real automation systems, then check out the link in the description. It's a community that I set up, and basically, I'm like as I said, I don't have a problem with templates. I love templates. I think they are like they quicken sort of the path towards success. But in this sort of place, we are actually diving deep into systems, into how to actually like build from fundamentals. So think about data flow, think about data mapping, to think about sort of everything that goes into how to think about solving workflows, like how to think about inputs, processes that go into like data processing, data manipulation, APIs. Like we look at everything in the community, and like if you just want to join, um, it's practically free. Like it's really low price. So yeah, check the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed the video.